Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the MGM Vodcast, where today myself and Matt will be talking about cars that should or shouldn't have stayed in the past. So why are we going to talk about this week, mate? What sparked this debate off?
So I think I don't know where we saw it, but Renault have had a big conference of some sort. They've called it the Renaulution. I think there was some play on words that they did, and there's been a few concepts floated around. One of them being a concept of a Renault 5, and this concept. You look at it and can see very much it does hark back to the lines of the Renault 5 with the way the rear lights are and the shape of it and things.
Yeah.
But it's full electric, which is the way things are going. But it's and there's no from what we've read, there's no hot hatch Renault 5 turbo sort of thing on the horizon. And we kind of started questioning, should this name have been left in the past? Because, I don't know, but are they bringing back the Renault 19? Another car that I always liked from Renault and things like that. So that's what started us thinking about this. How many cars have been bought back with names that should have perhaps been left in
the past? And I think where we should start is because there's a few companies done it, but other companies have bought back cars but kept them the same car, whereas Ford, in their infinite wisdom, have recently obviously re-released the Ford Puma. Now, I loved the original Ford Puma. Two-door, coupe hatchback. Little fun car, 1.6 petrol engine. Was just fun.
1.7 if you got the Puma racing.
1.6 if you got the racing Puma, of course, yeah. And it was just a fun hatchback. Now they've bought out, what can you call it?
It's a crossover. It's a crossover.
Is it a Fiesta?
No, it's a crossover, isn't it? So it's that real small segment between a small city car and a small SUV. They're calling it a crossover. Yeah. And what's confused me more about this is that we already have the car that your mother has, the Fiesta Active,
hasn't she?
which is already this jacked up Fiesta with a higher roof and things like that.
Yeah.
And they've also got is it the KA Plus or something like that, which is also a bit of a...
That's another topic. I'll come on to that in a minute. But yeah,
that's another little crossover one that they've bought out. And you kind of looked at it and thought, well, where's the Puma sit? And when I heard they were bringing back the Puma, I thought, brilliant. Is this going to be ST Fiesta, but a coupe version of it? Or
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was going to be the same as it used to be. So it's fitting in between sort of the Fiesta and the Focus.
Yeah,
as it were. But it's not. It's just not. It's just a pointless car.
So when I look at the car, I'm going to be brutally honest. Before this, I watched Petrol Ped, good channel to watch, and he's done a review of it. And he's so he's done a review of the Puma ST, and the colour he had it in was called Mean Green, and it is a lovely colour. It's it's bright, it looks good, and the car itself I quite like. I think it does look good.
Yeah.
The problem I have with it is that name that they've used. Because when we originally started talking about this, you were like, wow, yeah, they've used Cougar as well on an SUV. I was like, well, yeah, but that's a completely different spelling.
They've spelled it differently.
Yeah, they've spelled it differently. So it's completely different. But yeah, I mean, the problem is, Petrol Ped took it out and he was, the car itself is great. But he said it's only like 6 inches longer than a normal Fiesta, 4 or 5 inches taller. It really doesn't fit for me. I'm like, well, why would I want that much extra little space? Surely I'd rather go to a Focus or into the Cougar, into a proper SUV if I wanted to go down the Ford route. So it looks, I really do like the looks of it. I think it's a cool looking car if you get the right colour, if you get the right spec.
Yeah.
But the big problem I have with it is how much money it is.
Yeah, they're not cheap, are they?
Well, if you go for an ST Fiesta, I think like a top spec ST Fiesta, I think is about 21, 22 grand, something like that.
Yeah.
Once you
ST line, yeah.
No, it's ST.
The actual Fiesta ST.
That's ST, yeah. So, look, we're petrolheads. Do it properly. We're not buying some 1 litre. Just go for the quick one. Yeah, that's fine. And you can buy the same in the Puma. You can get the ST Puma, and I think it starts at 9 grand more. It starts at 30 grand.
That's a lot of money.
a lot of money for the size of car it is, and no disrespect, but for the badge that's on it as well, that much money for a small crossover with that badge on it seems dear.
I agree, and I disagree, because if you look over recent years, Ford's prices are becoming comparable with the Germans.
Well, and that's what I mean. So for me, bearing in mind that in our household we had from 2011 till 2017, we had the little Fiesta. Well, it's still in the family.
Yeah.
Give it to Danny. That little Fiesta, 09 Reg Fiesta, has now done 100,000 miles. Cracking little car for what it is, but it doesn't compare to, for argument's sake, an Audi A1, which is the comparable car, or a Volkswagen Polo.
I agree. And then if you look again, similar, mate, since 1995, there's been a Ford on my mum and dad's drive.
Yeah, but let's be honest about why that is.
Yeah, obviously my dad.
You don't pay retail.
He works for JLR, but it's still been a Ford on the drive.
Yeah.
He no longer works there. He's retired. There will still be Fords on the drive.
Yeah, because he'll still get that discount as an ex-employee.
I'm trying to get him German, but we'll see. Anyway, that's another.
Well, yeah, with that discount, without that discount, I think he probably would go that way.
Yeah. Okay.
With the discount, there's no chance he will. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we've gone off topic already within the first 3 minutes. But ultimately, they've bought the name back, the Puma name. Should it have been left in the past?
I think that for the way they've bought it out, in the sense that they've bought it out in a completely different car, yes, it should have been left in the past. If they were going to bring it out for that sporty coupe hatch in between the Fiesta and the Focus, if they were going to do that, then that would have been fine. Bring it back, but they haven't done that. It should have been left. Absolutely, should not have been bought back the way they bought it back.
Yeah, and you know, you see this a lot, don't you? Names change, obviously. You know, if they bought back Escort, if you heard that the Escort brand come back, you know,
for them to bring the Escort back, they've got to shit can the Focus.
Potentially, yeah. You know, potentially they have, and I don't think that'll ever happen. But what I wouldn't want to see is the Escort name coming back as something else.
I think
in the same way.
I think with the Escort, it carries too much iconic status when you look at the rally cars, you know, and the heritage of the Escort in itself.
Absolutely, I think there's more to it than that. I think that part of the reason the name got shit canned from Escort was that I don't think it travelled particularly well. So I don't think that the Escort sold particularly well in the States, and I think it was named the Focus before, you know, earlier in the States than it was over here potentially, or certainly that they switched the names a bit like, you know, Vauxhall isn't Vauxhall in Germany on the continent, and a funny one that you might know, the reason that we now know the Vauxhall Corsa as the Corsa, no longer as the Nova, is that in Spanish Nova means no go,
but
which is why it's always called the Corsa.
The Opel Nova has always been the Corsa.
Yeah, because of that fact that in Spanish, you know, because of that Spanish, it's that Spanish translation. But anyway, that's by the by.
So shouldn't have bought the Puma out in the sense they've bought it out.
Yeah.
So I was thinking on what other brands have done it. So let's jump to Volkswagen. Whilst they no longer do the Beetle anymore, they did. I think we had this conversation previously. We think Volkswagen were the first brand to re-release an old icon, in the sense they re-released the Beetle. Did a couple of revisions of it, if you like. Should they have bought that back?
I didn't mind the Beetle, to be honest. I
drove one. I had one.
I didn't mind it in that it did look like an updated version of the Beetle. It had kept its shape, the bubble shape. It had kept that. Yeah. Obviously, you know,
version of it was.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? You know, obviously, what didn't it have that the original had? Well, it didn't have the engine in the back, and it wasn't air cooled. But it was never going to be air cooled, and it was basically was a Golf with a different body. So I didn't have a particular problem with that. I would have always bought the Golf, which I think the majority of blokes would, but I think the Beetle did appeal to a lot of women.
Yeah, the Beetle had a market, it had a fan base, and it did really well, you know. And I think Volkswagen were right to bring that out, to be fair, in my opinion. But a couple of brands we've both got bees in our bonnets about. So Do we go Fiat or Mini first, or BMW first? It's not even
Well, we'll go Fiat first because I think Fiat got it absolutely spot on with the 500, and I adore the 500. And the other day there was a very funny post on the BMW forum where someone started ridiculing a 595 competizione, I think it's called, where it's got quad exhaust.
Yeah.
Started ridiculing it, going, "Oh, look at this," and that's how it comes from the back.
That has no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and no disrespect to 320 owners, Graham, but he drove a 320D. He was ridiculing this car that would leave you for dead.
Exactly. I know the car. I know the car. Sorry, I should put me in mind then. I know the car that he was talking about, and I know the car he's got because I've got it. But I've lost my train of thought. Where I was going? Yeah, I know what that car is, so I'm not going to sit there and slag it down. It's a Fiat 500 in essence. So it weighs a can of beans. It runs at 180 brake horsepower standard. That's a car that you want to drive. That car's a go-kart.
Absolutely, that is back in the day when the 500 came out in the 60s, because the 500 came out at the same time as the original Mini.
Yeah.
That was it's nothing like the original. The original was a 2-stroke, 3 cat power or whatever it was. But that was in the 60s. But that was exactly what it was designed for. It was designed to navigate through traffic in Rome, and that's exactly what it did. And when they brought it back, I've always liked it. I like the fact that they brought back the twin air, which does hark back to the original one because it's a 2-cylinder one and stuff like that.
What I like is as well, it's still small. While it's actually bigger than the original, it's not massive. It's still a small car, like it should have been.
Yeah.
It's got its market. Yes, it's a very feminine car, and obviously it appeals to young girls that have just passed the test. And I think that's the market Fiat were going for with the standard 500, shall we call?
Yeah.
And I think they've hit the nail on the head with the Abarths as well. I think the Abarths are absolutely fantastic, fun little cars.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our gripes about the Fiat 500. And it's not the original model, is it?
It's not a gripe about the Fiat 500. It's a gripe of how they've expanded the catalogue in that they bought out, I think it's the 500 XL and the 500L, which to me look nothing like a 500.
Correct.
And really should have, if they were going down the name of that sort of thing, they should have just used an old name from the past, which was the 600, because from memory, and I might be wrong, my Fiat knowledge is not brilliant.
Was a big car.
From memory, the 600 was a bigger car, so they could have used that name. Or I don't have a massive problem with it, but it does try to be a 500, so it retains that marketplace of where the kind of people that they want to sell it to.
Yeah, I think what they've tried to do with the L and the XL is it's a Fiat 500 for people with a family. And I think they've got it right. I personally think they've got it right.
Yeah, I think, well, they must sell because they're still making them. And I think the other thing, I think, if you let's look at 2 of my preferred brands, if you like, or 3 actually. If we talk the German brand, let's start with my favourite, with BMW.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on to these. They start the kids Mini. So even now you can pick up, and we probably will pick up at some point, because I'd quite like to own one, a Mini Cooper or a Mini one, one of the new ones, but you can pick them up cheap.
I think if we were going to get one, it'd be a Cooper S.
Well, obviously it would, but I'd actually like an early one, so I'd like the supercharged one.
Yes. I'd like the second revision.
Yeah, but before they switch to turbo.
Yeah, because it's got go-kart mode.
Well, I think I don't know. Again, I don't know enough about them, but what I do know is that the kids start off in that. Then they want something a bit bigger because they're doing longer journeys, want a bit more comfort. Oh, no problem at all. Step right this way. Here's the 1 Series.
Yeah.
Or I'd fancy a little coupe now, something a bit sporty. I'm earning a bit more money. Here's the 2 Series.
Absolutely.
Oh, Sprog number 1's come. Here's the 3, etc., etc., etc. And it goes right through the range. Audi is the same. Audi A1, A3, A4, A4, A6. And Mercedes are the same, starting with the A-Class. Actually starting with the smart car.
I'm not sure Mercedes is smart still.
It is.
It's still smart. Well, there you go. So obviously, they literally, all 3 brands start with your first car, all the way down to your last car ultimately.
Yeah.
But
well, actually, yeah, they do. In a lot of cases, the hearse that takes you to the funeral to the ceremony is a Mercedes.
it is a lot
So
of the time,
you
yeah.
literally is your last journey. It could be in a Mercedes.
But yeah, so obviously, I think the Fiat got it wrong, or they should, like you say, they should have called the XL and the L something different. They're not 500s. They're just not.
No, but I get why they've done it. It's a simple naming structure, but then I don't get the Fiat naming structure because what are their bigger cars called? You know, are they still doing the Brava and the Bravo? And
I'm honestly, mate, I'm not sure. I know they don't do the multiplier anymore.
no, well, thank Christ for that. That was like that car. Do you remember Homer Simpson designed a car? It looked almost like that, didn't it? But
Yeah,
you know, one of the best episodes of Top Gear where they blew it up. But you know, I think the naming structure for me, if you look at Audi, the naming structure makes sense. BMW, the naming structure makes sense. It's all numbers. It's not names. Fiat have got numbers on the 500, which is a historic thing, and even before that, the Seicento was a 600. I think that's 600 in Italian, and the Cinquecento was 500. So they still sort of used that.
But again, they were both very small cars.
Absolutely, but what I'm saying is, once they went to the bigger cars, why have they got names, not numbers?
Yeah,
you know,
it's not even. Well, you're obviously assuming the Punto, the Tipu, and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they still make the Panda, but they bought that's another one they bought back, and actually James May loved it. You know, James May had one.
The Panda 4x4, I think, was the one,
Yeah.
And it was meant to be. On all accounts, it was really fantastic. But
I wouldn't have owned one. Hideous looking car, like the original Panda was, but
didn't sort of like. But it was very, again, like the original small 500, very true to its original looks, albeit a little bit modernised.
Absolutely. And my cousin or my aunt and uncle initially had. Now I might be wrong, but I think it was a Panda, and that was passed down from them, or certainly to Joanna, my cousin, and then on to Dave, who's the younger cousin. And it went and went and went, sort of thing. And I can see why people would go. People that aren't necessarily petrol heads aspiring to certain things or certain models, I could see them going, "Oh, I'll have one of them," because they went on for ages. So there's definitely a market for them, and they must have sold. And I think Fiat harking back to their heritage is no bad thing.
No,
they did it. They did it with the 124. They brought the 124 out in allegiance with Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, well, they're the same car, aren't they? With different.
Pretty much, but they've stopped making them now. But they bought that out, so they've gone back to their roots a bit, which I get. But yeah, the XL and the L bit, I'm not sure that's the right name. But I don't know enough about the original 500. Did they do? How did they name?
I don't think they did.
But I don't know. I mean, the big one for me that always sticks in with me, and it always has, and there's more of them on the road now, and I kind of accept it that they're here and that they are well liked.
They are here.
I had very briefly a Mini Cooper S, the original Mini Cooper S. It was a K registered one. I borrowed it from a mate for 5-6 days, and I was trying my hardest to get the money together to buy it because it was an absolutely glorious machine when you were 17 years old. It was small, it was light, it felt rapid because you were so low down. It was a bloody go-kart.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, and I'm glad I didn't, because in a crash would have been terrible, and there's no doubt I would have crashed it. But that was a cracking wee car. Stopped making it. Fine. Okay, Mini name's gone. BMW had obviously bought Rover, so they therefore got the naming rights when they bought Rover.
Yeah.
And bought out the new Mini. Now, I think the new Mini must have come out turn of the century, sort of 2000, 2001, I think.
Thereabouts.
Yeah, early, Y plates, early 51 plates sort of thing, when they first sort of started coming out. And when they originally came out, I thought, Christ, how can you call that a Mini? It's huge. And that was in sort of 2001, but they've just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're now looking at it and going, hang on, what the hell's that? Because you've now got the Mini Clubman.
The Mini Clubman, I'm trying to find out when it was re-released. 2001.
Yeah, I thought that. So yeah, you've got Clubman.
You got the Mini.
Yeah.
The Mini Clubman and the Mini Countryman.
Yeah.
I understand the Clubman because the Mini had a Clubman and it was slightly bigger. It was like the estate version of the Mini. I get that.
The Mini did have the Countryman as well.
Yeah, but it wasn't a 4x4. It wasn't a crossover.
Well, no, they're absolutely. So from my memory, and I should know better than this because my mum had the original Mini, and I'll have to find the picture. I doubt I'll find it to get it in here. But my mum, in the 70s, this was Mini, or a lot of advertising companies, especially people that lived in London, which is where they were. They paid people to advertise products, and quite often you'd see Levi's Jeans did one where it was like the zipper going up and over the car. And my mum's advertised Cadbury's fudge.
Okay. So it was like an orange and purple.
Orange and orange, blue, purple. So they resprayed the car in orange, and they put all their vinyls on it, and they paid them to drive around with this advertising on. When the day the advertisement finished, they took all the advertising off, and my dad probably crashed the car. But there we go. But there was the original Mini. We all know it. We all love it. We had various different guises of it. We had the 1275 GT. We had the Cooper S, which was a 1300. We had the City, which was a 998cc. But loads of different variants. So John Cooper Works, all that sort of stuff. And the Countryman was, like you said, in my memory, the Countryman was an estate with the wood panelling.
That's correct, yeah.
The Countryman was a bit with wood panelling. They've recreated them, then the two doors on the back.
Correct.
That was the Countryman, I think.
No, that was a Clubman. Was
that the Clubman? So what was the original Mini Countryman then?
You're having a look.
Yeah, I'll just type that in because, like I say, I've done a bit of research watching Petrol Ped on the Puma, but I didn't look at Minis. But original Mini. So the original Mini Countryman was it had a bit like the Morris Minor wood paneling, where it was just round the edges. Yeah. So that was the Countryman. That was the original Countryman with the doors on the back rather than doors. Yeah. That was the Countryman. The Clubman was the estate. Basically, looks pretty much the same car without the wood paneling on. So a very slight difference,
right,
not a massive difference.
It was, So
now what you're looking at is the original Mini, or the new Mini rather.
Yeah.
I don't have a massive problem with that. It stayed true to the shape, and it's got bigger.
I think if you look at any of these new releases, I know you had an issue with the size of it, but I think it was the right size because obviously cars have got bigger.
Cars have got bigger, I accept that. Of course,
when they originally brought the Mini out, re-released the new Mini, whatever you
want to call it.
And I think even still now, the original Mini of the range is still small enough to be classed as a Mini.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, happy with that. And I would have one. Like I said, I would love to actually, at some point, potentially there's a project car coming. Maybe if we flip that for enough money, potentially get a Cooper S that we could do some stuff on. So, that I quite like the idea of that, and I like that. But yeah, and I don't particularly mind whichever it is the estate version, the longer version, because it's not got massive. It's just got longer. So that was the one where it's got one passenger door in the back.
Yeah.
Which is on the wrong side because it's created for pretty much, left-hand drive country. So your kids are going to get out the back into the road because you're going to pull up on the left, and that back door is on the right-hand side, and it's only got one.
So that's the Mini Clubman. The Mini Clubman is the one with the two doors at the back. Okay, the Mini Countryman.
That's the four-wheel drive.
That's the big four-wheel drive thing.
And that's the one I have the big problem with, because for me, the name Mini is synonymous with small city cars.
Little nippy town.
I've drove next to that I can't even remember what I was in. It was one of my cars, but it was absolutely huge next to it. My Clio is not a big car. My Clio is just a small car, or I consider it small. I guess it's bigger than a Mini, but probably isn't actually. It's probably about the same size as a normal size Mini, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
Possibly a little bit bigger, but not a lot in it. One of those Countrymen, it's massive. How can you stick a Mini badge on that?
You can't.
When it's the same size as, a much larger car.
An X3, an X2.
Well, it's probably an X1. Probably X1 size, yeah. So, yeah, that's the one I have a problem with. But again, I get why they do it, because they've got that whole brand.
I don't.
Well,
I don't get why they do it, because let's look at it. And you've spoke about it before a minute ago with the BMW range. So you've got Mini, 1 Series, 2 Series, C3. So you've got Mini. So this 4x4 ultimately is an X1 or X2.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they're competing against themselves.
Well, they are and they're not. It's not really costing them anything because they've already got that platform.
Yeah.
So they've already developed that platform and that engine. So all they're doing is different body panels, essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
Me and you, petrol heads, we were talking earlier about the takeover of Fiat and Peugeot and this massive merger that's created the fourth biggest company in the world, fourth biggest car manufacturer in the world.
Yeah.
If I went and asked my sister, who had a sky blue mini convertible at one point, if I went and asked her, well, she liked it. It's a girl's car, isn't it? It was a nice car, to be fair. It was in a great colour. But if I went and asked her who makes that car,
she'd say Mini.
She'd say Mini. So from a brand point of view, you know, would she naturally go, oh, I need a bigger car, I need a new car, I'll buy a BMW?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably
not
wouldn't.
anymore. Previously, she may have done until they
well,
those two out.
Well, I don't think she would, because I think the other thing that you've got to remember is if you go to BMW in Coventry and you go to BMW, would you know it has anything to do with Mini?
No, because they're two separate garages.
It's completely separate buildings.
Never used to be, though.
Yeah, it always has. It always has, because they knocked them down. They knocked down the other dealership.
Yeah, what you got to remember is going back 23 years ago, 24 years ago.
I remember I had an interview for a job at Mini.
Yeah, and I worked at Nissan next door.
Yeah. So when they knocked down Nissan, which was how long ago?
Yeah, exactly. So you originally had the Nissan garage, then you had the BMW and Mini garage together. It was all in one. Then obviously they're not Nissan.
But that was you know, that was very, very short lived. And I think, you know, I think I got the interview. Certainly, you were already at Barclays when I got off the job at Mini. Yeah, you must have been, because we'd not long moved in, and yeah, I mean, ultimately they separated those brands early on. When you look at the fact that they only relaunched the Mini in 2001, so they've always kept them separate. And I think unless you happen to be a bit of a geek, bit of a car guy,
maybe,
you know. Again, people that go in and buy the Toyota Supra, there will be people that go in and buy the Toyota Supra not knowing that underneath it's a Z4.
You think?
Not many.
You think?
There won't be many, because it's an enthusiast's car. I get that. There will be some. There will be some that buy it because it's a Toyota and it's a Supra, and they're harking back to the days gone by. But they're not.
I agree, but anybody of that ilk that is going to buy a Supra, that for nostalgic reasons will know it's a BMW Z4. They'll just know.
Well, they're, you know, possibly the most of them will. But you know, Thick Whips that we watch, who's got the Supra.
Yes.
He's actually got BMW centre caps on it, and he's got the BMW M Performance engine cover on it and stuff. And he deliberately popped his bonnet, or hood as he'd call it, because he's from North Carolina, at a car meet somewhere, Cars and Coffee or whatever it was called. And so quite a few people were going, "Oh, he swapped a BMW engine in."
See, that genuinely surprises me with car.
Yeah,
it really does.
But again, what you've got to look at there is you're in the States. Most people in the States, and I know I'm generalising, so I don't think we've got any American viewers, but if we have, I'm apologising now. But most American people tend to go to the domestic market over there.
Yeah.
So it's the Camaros, it's the Mustangs, it's that sort of thing, generally speaking. So that whilst I think the import scene is growing, and when you talk about import scene here, we're talking Jap imports for us.
They're talking
imports, well, they're talking European or Japanese or whatever. That's what they call as called the import market sort of thing. So I think, you know, there will be those people that buy it on the name that don't necessarily know a huge amount about cars.
I think more so in the States.
I don't think there'll be a huge number of those, but there will be some of them there. But, you know, again, that's another one, isn't it? Really, that's another name.
Should they have bought the Supra back?
I love it for what it is.
I
think it looks cracking, and I think if you look at what Thick Whips has done with, you'd like his one because it's murdered out, and you like murdered out.
Yeah, I do like murdered out cars, certain murdered out cars, but
the shape of it, I like the shape of it. Harks back to the original Supra, so I don't have a problem with the appearance. What I have a problem with is when I open that door
It's a carbon copy of the interior.
Well, it is a BMW Z4 interior,
yeah,
and that's where I get that it was a collaboration, but the styling is definitely Supra. The styling is definitely Toyota. You can see that on that car. And I do like it, but literally engine, gearbox, suspension, everything is
about it is
the BMW. And the interior is BMW.
I personally, unpopular opinion, don't think they should have re-released it.
Well, I don't know how it's selling, and I've always But I think what's interesting and what I don't like that they've done, but they have done, is they're now releasing it with a 2-litre engine variant, which will obviously be a cheaper car, and that kind of, to me, I don't really like that, because the Supra was always a straight 6.
Yeah, it was, but there was still 2 engine variants, wasn't there?
Oh, they were both 3-litre straight 6s. One just had a couple of turbo strapped to it, but they were both.
It's different engine variant, though, isn't it?
Well, yes, but there were 3 litres.
It was sold as the cheaper car.
Yeah, but they were both 3-litre 6-pot engines.
I get what you're saying, but I can also see why they've done the 2-litre.
But it's a 4-pot 2-litre. I'd much rather be seeing them go, right, we need to do a cheaper version of this. Let's bring back an MR2, which there are talks of them doing, but I expect that'll be a hybrid or an electric vehicle. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, there aren't any others that I think that, you look at and go, that they've bought back, and you think, why have you bought that name back? You were going to say something about the KA.
That was a completely. That was more size of vehicles rather than.
Well, compared to the original Toblerone.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the original KA, to the new KA, mate, the new KA is the size of an early
Fiesta.
Not the new Fiesta, but the Fiesta probably before.
The Fiesta we had.
Yeah.
That shape,
that's not a KA anymore. It's too big.
But everything's got bigger, isn't it? It's a bit like if you took the RS. If you took the RS 200 Clio, and I always have to say Clio at the end, because if I say RS 200, I immediately think of the Group B Ford rally car.
Yeah.
But if you think of the RS 200 Clio that I've got, if you park that next to a 172, it's significantly bigger than a 172.
Yeah, I mean, if you park that RS 200 Clio next to an early Megane, like an early Megane, like late 90s Megane, it'd be a similar size.
There'd be a similar size.
Yeah,
cars in general have got. Well, you see it all the time when you go and park. People moan at people going over two parking spaces. But the problem is parking spaces haven't got any bigger, but cars have.
In old car parks, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it in old car. In new car parks, for example, the Tesco's up the road from us. Those car parking spaces are plenty big enough.
Oh, they are, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm talking about those old car parks. Like Morrison's, I went to Morrison's in Elvis, at the Elvis retail park.
Yeah, they're too small.
They're too small for my M2. I deliberately did what I do every time and drive 50 miles away from the parking from the store, so that no one parks next to it. And then you'd always go and see some freaking Nissan Micra from 1976 parked next to you. But park it right out the way. But those spaces, and okay, I did struggle. That
is another episode. BMW cliches. We'll come back to that one. But yeah, so when we're talking about cars that should and shouldn't have been rebuilt, like you say, I don't think there are any.
No, but okay, so we've talked about ones that we don't think should have come back. Obviously, the Renault 5 is this one that Renault are trying to bring back.
Yeah.
What other iconic or historic, what other cars from our past would you like to see reimagined, redesigned and relaunched?
That's a great question. Really is a great question.
Because I straight away I stay on the Renault theme, and I immediately, if you talk to me Renault 19, Renault 5, I immediately think Renault 19. I used to love the 16 valve.
Yeah,
something like that would be cool. But again, that's what the Megane is now, so that wouldn't happen.
Exactly, yeah. So it's in essence the 19 still about. What would I like to see come back?
Obviously, Ford have gone down the route of the ST, haven't they? So when you talk about the Focus, the ST and the RS is the replacement for the Escort XR3, and the Escort RS, I guess. So you've got that replacement there. The Fiesta's got the ST, which was R2.
So, like, as much as I would love to see an Escort RS come back, there's no market for it.
No,
there's no
place for it. I'll tell you one, and I'll tell you another one that I don't think they should have brought the name back from that I've missed off. So the car that I'd love to see them bring back, which doesn't really exist anymore, is a Saxo VTS 106 style GTI, because there's no small quick hatches that they do anymore.
No, there's not.
You use obviously the Saxo stopped, and you got the C2, which was really a bit quirky and a bit odd, and
it didn't go down very well.
It was a massive departure from what the Saxo was.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, because the Saxo was massive on the modding scene and the underground car scene, when they bought the C2 out, it was a massive flop.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know how many they sold. I've never seen the stats, but it's certainly. It certainly, I don't know if it launched. I mean, I had one of the last Saxos made, which was sort of 2003.
Yours was a 52 plate, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was a late
52, yeah.
Early. I've got it on my 21st birthday, but so I kind of think that I don't know. I think that's one I'd like to see. The French make brilliant little hatchbacks. My Clio, you've been out in that. It ain't fast, it ain't rapid, but it's a fun little car. And that's what the Saxos always were.
I'd like to see Peugeot bring a proper hot hatchback back, like, and call it. They'll call it the 200 something. Obviously, I'd like them to relive or mimic the 205.
Yeah, and the problem is at the minute you've got, I think it's the 208 that they're on now, and they do a 208 GTI.
They do, but it's a bag of shit.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think the problem is that the 208 GTI is the size of another cool modern classic 309 GTI, because the 208 is bigger. No, earlier.
309 was a saloon, mate.
Yeah, well, it's a hatch. It wasn't a saloon. It was a
309 hatch. Was a saloon.
Get your Google up, mate. It's a hatch. 309 GTI was a hatch. 306 GTR 6 was a hatch. But it was a hatch. They may have done a saloon of the 309, but the 309 GTI was a hatch.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. The rear glass lifts, therefore it's a hatch. The rear glass lifts, therefore it's a hatch.
Okay. I don't know if you can pick that up. That is not classed as a hot hatch.
It's a hatch because the glass lifts. Absolutely. The glass lifts, so it's a hatch.
Whether the arse end lifts up, that's not a hot hatch because of the shape. A hot hatch, the boot cuts off. There is no boot on it. It's just a tail lift. That 309, nah.
It is a hatch.
It's not a hot hatch.
It is, but we'll agree. It's earlier than 306 anyway.
It is earlier than 306. I agree with you on that.
Anyway, the 306 is another one, but obviously they actually that's probably a good one that they haven't done, because I don't think they've done a 30. What are they on? Are they on? Their numbers aren't really going to work because the 309 GTI has already been about. So
I think that's what after the 306. Yeah.
They're on the 308 now.
It went all weird.
Their numbers are odd, but yeah, I mean, that was another one. The 306 GTR 6 was another cool hatch. So yeah, something. Generally, small hatchbacks, the French do brilliantly.
They do. They always have.
So and at the minute, I kind of think that the only small hot hatch that you really get is the RS, but the Renault Sport. I don't know if it's still called the 200, but it's now 1.6 turbo in the Clio. Yeah. But there's that. Obviously, they stopped making the Twingo, which looked a cool little car. The 1.3.
Was it the 1.22 Twingo?
No, 1.33.
1.33.
Yeah, it was the 1.33. The one Clarkson drove into the sea.
Yeah, that one.
With who do you have in the boot? One of the Mitchell brothers. It was one of the Mitchell brothers who was in the boot.
Grantner.
Yeah, whatever his name is, not Steve McFadden, the other one.
Ross Kemp,
that's it. But yeah, they stopped making that. But yeah, a cool French hot hatch, and
they have always done it well. They have.
Yeah, definitely, without doubt. They'd be.
But then Ford always did it well.
Yeah, but we've still got hot hatches from Ford. You've got the ST.
I think they did fall off. I think if you go,
ST 170 was not where it should have been.
I think if you look at the XR2i,
yeah,
after that, there wasn't really anything.
For a long period of time.
Until they classed their next, I would class their next hot hatch, which wasn't a hot hatch, as the Z-Tech S. And that wasn't a hot hatch.
Well, no, it wasn't, because that was way down. So they kind of, after the XR2 finished, the next hot hatch Fiesta was the original Fiesta ST, which was heavier than the Renault and 50 horsepower down.
Exactly, yeah, because it was only 150 horsepower.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that's what I mean. I think Ford did it well and then just fell off the face of the earth.
I think they focused at the time probably more on Mr. Commuter Man with the Mondeo stuff, and that was the market.
You're probably right.
It's very similar with Toyota. I would love Toyota to bring out another mid-engined, MR2 style car.
Yeah.
But sadly, when you look at Toyota, they stopped making the MR2, they stopped making the Supra, they stopped making the quick Corollas and stuff like that, and really focused on.
I think you may see the MR2 shape again, but like we've said, it'll be a hybrid. It'll be a hybrid or a full electric.
I think it's already talked. From what I've read, I think it's already talked about as being a hybrid of some sort. From what I've read, there's rumours floating around, but I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if you look at Joe Achilles took the M340i around some track somewhere. And that's got a 48 volt mild hybrid.
The new one has, yeah.
The new one, yeah. And I think it gives it like an extra 50, 60 brake.
Yeah.
And it's a mild hybrid system. So it's not a full system that you plug in and charge up. It's charged it's basically Formula One technology that's filtered down. So it's KERS, kinetic energy recovery. So as you brake, it recharges it regens the battery. So that's how that works. And it gave it a right kick, and so I don't have a problem with it being a mild hybrid or something like that.
I'm not really Joe Achilles' friend at the minute, but
yeah, because he's rightly said that the X6 is pony.
With all due respect, Joe, you're wrong.
He's driven it for a lot longer than you did, and he knows how to go around corners, which you don't. So I will take his opinion over yours.
Very true.
But yeah, I think. Other cars you'd like to see come back that you'd hark back to wanting to own?
I don't think so.
No, I mean the world moves on, doesn't it? And the name, the names.
I think it's nice. It's nice to reminisce over your likes of your Renault 5 GT2.
Well, you see, I can
yeah.
But now there's been this merger that's gone down with Fiat and Peugeot and Renault and all sorts getting into bed, and Alpine are building this Type 131 with Lotus and stuff. So there's all sorts of conglomerations going on because that's R&D is so expensive. That's why they've had to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that what I'd like to see is if we're going to get the Renault 5, let's say it's going to be electric. We've just got to accept that. Me and you've got to stop being Stone Age and just accept that the future of the car and the future of motoring is going down that route. Hence why I've bought my M2 now, and will keep hold of it as long as the government allow me to drive it.
You'll change it in 3 years.
No, I don't think I will. I'll probably keep that down to share and then buy something else. That's how it in my house, you know that. But ultimately, and I don't think I will, because I don't think I will have put hardly any miles on it. And
I agree with that.
It will just really begrudge me the money I would lose on that to change it. I've hardly put any miles on. I think
when you're due to chop it or whatever, you'll still be sub 10k.
3 years I've had it, possibly. Yeah, I mean it's not even on 2k yet, so maybe we'll have to see where we are. Yeah, we'll have to see where we are. I haven't bought that going, I need to put a load of miles on it. I bought it as a toy, and I've been lucky enough to be in the position to do that. But I can, if we look at electric is becoming more and more dominant. And I was saying when I was talking to you before we started recording this, I wouldn't mind having an electric car.
No. And we've already said we're going to do a whole episode on the EV.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't mind having an electric car if it allowed me to keep my petrol car as a toy. I wouldn't have it as its only car. But we're looking at that Renault 5. If that comes out as full EV, why don't Citroën do the AX? Bring the AX back, because if they're all part of the same group, which they are now going to be, I think, from what I've read.
Yeah. Okay. So
you could rebrand, you could relaunch the Punto. Well, and that's the time with the Renault 5, with the Citroën AX.
The Renault 5, the Punto, the AX. What did Peugeot bring out? Can't bring out the 205 because they've already on the 208.
Well, yeah.
They can't bring out the 106 because they're on the whatever the little.
Well, yeah, they've just continued their numbers, haven't they?
Yeah, see,
it removed and that changed.
They've made it in the
but
sense
that was the other name that I don't like that Citroen have brought back, and it's because it's, for me, the name is a legend with motoring, and that's the DS badge.
Yes.
And for me, I don't know a huge amount about the DS. I know that my dad loves the original DS, and it was a very stylish, very futuristic car when it came out. And it kind of, I don't know how many more of those cars they built after the original DS using that name before they dropped it and just became Citroen and using the model names. So I'm kind of like, you know, they've bought that badge back, and I'm kind of like, well, ain't it? You know, they've got it on everything now, haven't they? Pretty much the Citroens now, the majority of them are labelled as DS, and that's a badge.
No, you can still buy. So you've obviously got a Citroen C3, and you can obviously buy the Citroen DS3.
Yeah, which
no one's buying the Citroen badge. Everyone's buying the DS.
Yeah, but it's a bit, for me, that's a bit of a historic badge that I don't think should have been brought back. But you know, they're obviously, I'm not in marketing for cars, so they're obviously doing the right thing, because that's a popular car as well. That's selling, you know, certainly my mate Chris, different Chris that I go to football with. His daughter Chloe had a Fiat 500. He bought her for her first car, and she's now gone out and bought a DS3. So they are obviously appealing to.
It's a cool looking car, I think.
Yeah, it's not a bad looking car.
I think it's a cool looking car.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have one because it's French. But
well, you see, and you know, I wouldn't. I had 3 French cars before I bought. I had 4 including shares before I bought this Clio. And you know, they were. I didn't have problems with them. They get a lot of flack around their electrics, and you know, don't get me wrong, my RS200 has that weird electrical nip now and then. But I don't actually think that's down to the factory wiring. Looking at how many wires,
I think that's down to a black box being wired into it before you.
Yeah, I think it is, and I need to trace it and take it out. But you know, that's probably another project for us to do. But when we get the weather, when this snow buggers off,
So guys, thank you all for watching. That's what we think should and shouldn't have been brought back. What do you think should and shouldn't?
What would you bring back? What cars would you bring back? Definitely. Cheers for watching, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
Stay safe. See you soon. Bye-bye.